go with the tape.
Yeah, so what we have here is we're going to be looking at a few different techniques or tips. So one of them is if you're wrapping your bamboo before you cut it, you might want to tape that, right?
Yep.
On cue. So in taping this, it allows you to have less of the fraying that may happen when you're working with any sort of wood material. So yeah, so kind of see how that's there. We can see another one. So yes, these will fray a little bit. You can see a little bit of that edge right there, fraying. Anywho.
So these are a couple of sections that we prepared up from that long tree branch, and here are some little pieces as well that we're going to possibly use for making mini pens.
Yeah, so we're also choosing like an appropriate size blade for the appropriate size bamboo. So we have some really large, thicker bamboos up here. You want a sturdier knife, something that's less likely to break on you or be a dangerous tool to work with. You might have a whittling knife, and if that has a nice sharp edge, that could work as well. You know, notice we have the X-Acto, and this X-Acto might be good for smaller pieces. And then we have these breakaway blades. So I'm going to show on this breakaway blade how you might, you know, there's little tiny lines on the back edge of that blade. So what you want to do when you're working with the breakaway is have a nice fresh edge, right? So on many of these, they have a little piece that pops out. There we go. And then there's a very strong stroked line and a less stroked line on the back end. Usually you want to have that bold line facing away from you, and there's a slot on the end of this. And I can snap this away from me, and then you're left with this little bit. So any tips on those little bits, Donna? Any general rules?
Anything, X-Acto blade, this kind of blade, saw blades, I wrap them up in tape. And Erica's saying attach them to some cardboard too.
Right, so if you're gonna have one of these, I would like put them in some cardboard, fold that over, and then I would wrap that around with tape and discard it in the trash. Right, so what you're trying to do is have a safe environment both for, you know, if you're taking out the trash or someone you love's taking out the trash, or maybe someone you don't love, but you still don't want to hurt them.
You don't want their blood
someone
on
else
the
is
trash.
taking the trash, right? So we're just trying to be cautious of our environment and having a safe workplace.
All right, you're going to show some cutting?
Yes. All right, so where should we start? You want to go with this one?
Let's start on the little one first. So we have two ends to look at. This is a beautiful end you can use for stamping, but we might, with some other blades here, have some better stamping. We've got that stamp at both ends. So if fail safe, if we can't carve knives out of it, we've got some great stamps. So I would probably start at this end. You want to go for it?
And I'm just going like this, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away from myself. Oh, I noticed you were trimming some of these off earlier, Donna.
I hadn't gotten them all the way.
Yeah, but eventually you want to get all these little nibs because they will stab you, right? So,
yeah.
So we're going to be working on those a little later. I'm seeing a flat edge here, so I'm going to put the...
Okay, yeah, great.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
okay.
Start there.
So.
Oh.
And it's just flying off. Now, if that doesn't work, you can brace it against your cutting area. And notice that's why I'm cutting away from myself.
Yep.
So what we have around here, we have a self-healing cutting mat. We have a piece of cardboard or chipboard.
Mm-hmm.
You could get away with just chipboard, but make sure you have a large enough space to catch the knife when it exits. And you can see that there's a score there. And then at a certain point, you can just shave a small amount. So what I'm doing here is I'm pushing the back end of the blade at a more controlled manner. And I could do this. As long as I'm doing short shavings, I could do this the entire time. And I'm pushing not on the sharp edge of the blade, but this large metal frame.
And sometimes at this point, you could also go to an X-Acto if you're working a smaller and you want little pieces.
So am I trying to keep this curved?
Eventually, yeah, you do keep it curved. Although some of the commercial ones are curved. Well, like this one
Let's
is
see.
curved.
Oh, that's working.
And then the other ones are like this.
Ah, so that's got a really
nice
big notch on
it.
Yeah, so really long. Where's those really long, skinny ones? I find those ones interesting as a design, right? That's a straight cut, and then it's cut straight across.
Or it could have been not straight cut in the beginning. It could have been sliced down and then the straight cut. Because I remember that class we took, that's what he did. He trimmed it up and then cleaned it up after the gross movements of big chips away.
So how about there? Do we feel good about that edge?
I feel good about that edge.
Is that too thick, or do you think a little thinner?
No, I would stop there. One thing about cutting green is that it's easy to cut, and one here I actually already broke because I had cut it. I made these in December, I guess, and look at that. I ended up breaking it because remember, it's going to get thinner as it dries anyway.
Let's look at these ones. Well, they're actually using like a little bit of an inkwell, so each one of them's a little bit different. This one has a slight split down the middle and a little hole. This one also has like a hole, but it's cut as a wedge first, right?
Maybe because it's bigger.
Yeah. And then what else do you have there?
This I believe is split. It's so dirty it's hard to tell. This is a split.
Okay, so why do we want it split?
It makes it more flexible. If we could get down, you could see the two pieces of bamboo slightly moving apart. And that helps with the flow of the ink. This one, however, has no split at all on that end.
Yeah.
I can't see a split.
There is no split on that one
Yeah.
whatsoever. But this has a really nice fine point.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's all different types of points. So one of the nice things about making your own tool is you can have a variety of pens for a variety of line work or strokes that you're trying to work with.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got this. I need to split it down the middle.
No, that comes
Huh?
toward the end. You've
Okay.
got to shave up the
All
back
right,
side.
so let's do the back side. So I'm ready to draw. I want to get drawing already.
Forget it.
These things take time.
Yeah. Here's one we did in our class. It is split. He showed us how to split it, how to firm up the edge.
So I'm just slowly carving away at this and trying to keep it as even as possible. I'm constantly checking the lip on this, and I don't think I want to go any thinner because it's going to get a little more dangerous for breaking.
One of the things, if you have an end that is wonky or not straight, is that you take and you trim off the end. You would make a firm cut, place down, firmly cut. If you want a calligraphy style pen, then I have a video to show you from YouTube. Then you would cut it at a diagonal, just a slight diagonal, so you'd have still not a point like this, but where's that flat one? One like this that was at a diagonal. So this one is at a slight diagonal, and this one is not. So every tool you make will make a different mark.
All right, so should I go ahead and...
Yeah,
I
you
feel
could
like
go in
I'm
and
gonna
trim
go ahead
it
and
down.
trim that down a little bit.
And I'll tell you, when they're green, the greener these are, the easier they are to cut and cut away. Maybe remove too much.
Yeah, like there. I'm going towards, there we go. Still a little wonky. I'm going to take your advice on cutting that straight edge after. But I want sort of like a...
nipping it. Like.
Yeah. So should we do that before we actually... Let's try an angled edge. I'm kind of curious about that.
And he didn't cut it. He just snapped
Oh.
it down. Took
Well,
the
I don't
whole-
know if I can do that with this knife safely.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to try to score it. 'Cause I don't have the right knife for that. Let's try it straight for now.
There you
That
go.
worked. One slice. Now we're gonna cut it down the middle.
Yeah, sliced from the other side, I thought. Maybe not.
I don't know. if
No, maybe it's from the other side.
it-
Okay.
Yeah. Let's try it from here. And that's split. Yep. I'm just checking it with my finger. It's split. Are we ready to test it to see if it's? I don't know. Seems
I don't
like
know,
it needs a
let's,
little bit of. It seems very sharp. I feel like it needs something to
Needs-
soften that edge. So what we do have is some sandpaper,
And you just make that edge soft.
right? So we got some sandpaper here. If you're not familiar with sandpaper, they come in a lot of different grits, right? So this one is a multi-pack that has 80 grit, 150, and 220.
I think we're gonna want the 220.
220?
Yeah.
Okay, and the higher the number, the finer the sandpaper. So just keep that in mind. You can also buy these
Yeah,
by the sheet. So if you don't want the whole thing, where you want to go to buy a sheet is actually like a smaller hardware store, like Ace Hardware, or just, one of your small, not your big box stores.
and we could just sharpen it by dragging it along.
Oh yeah, that already looks nicer.
It won't be anything for anybody that does their nails on a regular basis. You'll get the feel right.
Yeah.
Even that feels nicer.
Yeah.
So then you look
Oh,
at
yeah,
it
that's
after you've
nice.
smoothed it up. Is it still a good enough point? We're going to be testing these in a little bit and evaluate whether or not we think those little points work at all.
Okay.
So the same thing we might do is before we go off on our little video, I'm going to make these a little shorter and we can test these babies even using my pruners. I got a nice diagonal edge. What the heck is that diagonal edge going to do for me? So we're going to go ahead and test.